from Homemade Emily Jane. In today's video, I'm going to talk about all of the quilting essential tools that you need in order to hand quilt a quilt. This video tutorial is specifically aimed for big stitch hand quilting, which is very popular these days and one of my favorite ways to finish off a quilt. So let's dive in. I will start by sharing that obviously you need a quilt top, and in order to get it ready for the hand quilting process, you need to baste your quilt top. So it'll look like your quilt top, a layer of batting, and then of course your backing, and you can spray baste it or pin baste it, but whether you spray or pin, I always recommend pins. So if you did spray baste, awesome, just throw in a couple extra pins, just because you never know when you're gonna finish the quilt and you don't want that spray adhesive to come undone. So pinning it in place helps keep everything nice and sturdy for as long as it takes you to finish the quilt. Once your quilt is basted, you gotta figure out what your quilting design is going to look like. So for this quilt, I'm doing a lot of straight lines. So I would use a ruler and a hair marker and mark my straight lines on the quilt at correct distances so that everything looks nice and evenly organized. You could also use a curved ruler and a hair marker if you want some organized curved lines, or there's the option to skip the marking altogether and just improv, which is a lot of fun as well. So next thing that we will talk about is thread. Big stitch hand quilting, you gotta use some big thread. Here are some of my options. I'll start off with my size 12. This is size 12 weight Aurifil, and it comes on a spool and it lasts forever. There is so much thread on one spool, it's amazing. The other kind of big stitch thread I would use is 8 weight, which is a tiny bit bigger than 12 weight. And I have a couple different kinds here. Lots of different brands of this, I love them all. There's Finca, which is great, Wonderfil, which is also great, and then I think DMC. So the important thing to search for would be like size 12 cotton, size 8 cotton thread. It is important to note to look at how many grams, or like how, hey baby, when it comes to thread, look at how much thread is on the spool, because some spools will have 5 grams and some will have 10 grams. From my experience, 5 grams is not enough to finish a quilt. Depending on how heavy you're hand quilting, you might need more than one little ball spool of this kind of thread, so just be on the lookout for that. They're pretty inexpensive, so buy extra. The next really important thing to talk about is needles. This is my super janky half of a needle case because I chopped it off so that it would fit in my drawer, but I swear by these needles. I love them so much. They are called the Big Stitch Hand Quilting Needles. Quilting needles up until recently were really foreign to me and I didn't understand the sizing. So this Big Stitch hand needle kit actually has 3 different kinds of needles, and each of them come in multiple sizes. I don't remember the exact numbers right now, but I can cover the types of needles. So it has quilting needles in lower numbers. I want to say like size 4 or 5. Embroidery needles, which I don't remember the numbers, but I think they're like higher numbers. And then also chenille needles. So 3 different kinds of needles, and the different type of needle will determine the shape of the eye of the needle mostly. And so when you recognize that there's different kinds of needles, you'll then also be able to decide which one you like the best. And so the amazing thing about this kit, it includes 14 needles, and I think within that 14 there's about 5 different kinds and sizes. So you can really figure out which one you want. The next important thing that I'll talk about is a needle threader. This for me is very, very essential because it makes it a lot less stressful trying to get your big thread through the eye of the needle. I also highly recommend a small pair of scissors. These are the ones I use primarily for travel because it has the cover on the scissors, but any small snips will do. I also want to talk about thimbles. There are so many different kinds of thimbles out there, and I really, really just urge you to find the one that works best for you. The ones that I tend to like the best are leather. This one is leather but with a metal plate, and then this one is just 100% leather. and they both seem to work really well for me. It is important to note that they come in different sizes. I'm a size small, so if you're not sure what size you are, shop in store and there's a little size guide on it, but I recommend size small, especially because sometimes they grow a little bit with use. So that's Thimbles. One last thing that is absolutely essential for quilting is a Grippy guide. I didn't have one for a long time, and then when I started using one, it was like a total game changer. My hands weren't as fatigued because it really helps you grip the needle and pull it through the fabric. If I know I'm going to be hand quilting for a long time in one sitting, I'll also use a grip on my thumb, and so then I'll have a grip on my pointer finger and my thumb, and then I'll have my thimble on my middle finger, all in my right hand, which I'm right-handed. And that covers all of the essentials that you need for quilting, which is really like thread, needles, thimbles, scissors. Easy peasy. Next, I want to talk to you about the things that I have found super, super helpful, but might not really be considered essential. So first, a dome threaded needle case. This threaded needle case holds 10 needles, and you can have them all threaded so that when you begin to sit down to hand quilt, you can thread them all at once and then just grab them at each one after the other, and you don't have to stop to thread your needle. Super handy little tool. I also recommend some sort of thread gloss. I use Thread Magic currently, but there's lots of different kinds out there. It's mostly like a beeswax oil type of situation that you run your thread through, and it just puts a really thin coat of something on it, and it helps keep your thread from getting tangled up while you're hand quilting. If you ever run into a situation where your thread gets tangled, it can be really disheartening and frustrating to have to work through that. Like, we're here to have fun. We don't want our thread tangling. So thread gloss is a great option. One of my favorite tools that's not really a tool is this OttLite rechargeable portable light. It gives out really good light. I'll show you. It has some different settings. And it's touch, which is really cool. And what I do when I want to hand quilt, I often hand quilt while I'm on the couch with my husband and we want to watch a movie. So while we're watching the movie, we'll turn the lights down, and I will stick this in between the couch cushions so that it's nice and propped up, and then turn it on, and I will have like really focused light for me to do my stitching without it really ruining like the experience of watching the movie. So that is a really good option. Again, it's rechargeable, so you don't have to worry about a cord. It's amazing. The last tool that I want to share with you, I go back and forth on whether or not I really need this, but it is a quilting hoop. They come in wooden or plastic and a couple different sizes. This is an 18-inch wooden hoop, and you would hoop it like embroidery, like you put your quilt in between these two layers and then you twist the knob to make it tighter. And it just keeps your quilt top really nice and taut for you so that you can focus on pulling that needle up and down with precision. Lately, I've just been using my hands, one on the bottom side of the quilt and holding it and putting my needle through that way. So my recommendation to you is to not get a hoop at first. Try it with your hands. If you find it hard and like you're fumbling through, then maybe borrow a hoop from a friend or get one from the local craft store. And try it out with a hoop, because maybe that's what works best for you. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. I hope that these tools come in handy for you. Go ahead and grab your tools. If you need to shop, please shop in the affiliate links below. That helps support me and so that I can continue making videos for you. Go ahead and check out my website, homemadeemilyjane.com, for lots more quilting tips and tricks, and be sure to subscribe to my channel. My next video is going to be about how to actually do the hand quilting. So if you subscribe, you'll be sure to see that next time you pop onto YouTube. Or if you turn notifications on, you'll get a notification about it. So yay for that. Thank you again for watching. Have a good one.